course, we spent a lot of time on this show talking about the Democratic presidential primary, and while we still don't know who President Trump's challenger will be, it appears they could have some rough terrain ahead.
According to reporting by The Hill's Reid Wilson, the 2020 presidential election is likely to pay out over the largest battlefield in recent history, as changing demographics and political alignments reshape the political landscape. Reid joins us now to expand a little bit on this. Reid, great to see you.
Thanks. Expand on this? See what you did there.
That's right. So with this expansive map, can you expand on what we might see? What do you mean by the largest battlefield in history? We've got the Sun Belt, you've got the Midwest, and you've got You've got the South. So where is everything going to be competitive?
Places all over the country are going to be competitive this year. And we're so used to talking about a few different states. We're used to talking about Ohio and Florida, and now we've got the three Midwestern states that President Trump broke through the blue wall in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. But I think what we're seeing here is a much larger political map. States that have not been in play in the past are going to be in play. We've seen public polling recently that shows that Arizona is competitive, that Texas is competitive, that North Carolina is competitive. And okay, so those are three states that are really good for Democrats if they're on the table, because those are typically Republican states. Let's talk about the Democratic states that are on the table too. Places like Minnesota and New Hampshire are going to be in play for the same reason that Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania were in play. The types of voters who swung from Democrats to President Trump also live in those two states. Minnesota has not gone Republican since Richard Nixon won it in 1972, and Donald Trump came within 45,000 votes of winning.
Right.
That was the closest state last year.
It wasn't the closest state. No, there were a couple of closer ones. Florida was very close, but it was 112,000 votes. Obviously, a much bigger state. New Hampshire, Hillary Clinton only won it by 2,700 votes. So a really close contest there, and I think we're going to see those across the country. So this is, I mean, we talk about the three Midwestern states, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. President Trump only won those by 77,000 votes. Well, Hillary Clinton only won Minnesota, Nevada, and New Hampshire by a combined 74,000 votes. So you swing 77,000 votes one way or the other, and somebody's got an advantage to grow.
Is that enough electoral math in order to swing it back? I mean, that's more.
If the Democratic nominee wins just what Hillary Clinton won, plus those three Midwestern states, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, they would win the White House.
Got it.
But we're talking about states beyond that are in play. I mean, Arizona. Take a look at Arizona in particular. Democrats won a congressional seat out there. They won they won a U.S. Senate seat for the first time in a generation in 2018. There's another competitive Senate seat up this year. Hillary Clinton made a minor investment there and came pretty close to winning it. And we talk about a place like Texas. If Ohio is the battleground, Hillary Clinton came closer to winning Texas than she did Ohio.
That's
so
crazy.
that tells, and consider the Democratic gains.
That really is.
The Democratic Party has dreamed of Texas for a while now, because by the time you get Texas, California, and New York, you're like in really good shape in terms of winning the Electoral College. Is it real this time?
So it is, and here's why. For the longest time, Democrats have talked about the sleeping Hispanic giant who's going to wake up and suddenly turn out and change the entire state.
Right.
That's not what's happening in Texas. What's happening is people from California and New York and Illinois are moving down. And if you talk to a Texas Republican, talk to the governor of Texas, they'll tell you, or he'll tell you, boy, it's fantastic. They're coming here for great jobs and great weather and low taxes and low regulations. Then you turn off the recorder and he'll say, gosh, I wish they'd stop voting like they lived in California. And that's what's happening. We've seen tremendous growth in the Dallas Metroplex, in Austin, San Antonio, Houston to a lesser extent, but a little bit, especially in the suburbs. People are actually moving out of Houston into the suburban counties around there, and that's changed the fundamental balance of power in Texas. The state house is really in play in 2020. Democrats only need 9 out of 150 seats to win back control.
Beto getting involved there.
He's going to be. The filing deadline is passed, so he's not going to be in the U.S. Senate contest. But that area is going to be hugely competitive. There are a couple of Democrats picked up a couple of congressional seats down there. There's another one that they'll be competing from El Paso along the Mexican border. So this, Texas is super in play, and it's not because of the sleeping Hispanic giant that's waking up. It's because of Californians moving in.
Very well. I am from Texas. I hear exactly the same thing whenever I go back there and I talk. It is interesting because what you're talking about is a real political realignment. You're talking about a realignment of the map, which is that, okay, so the Democrats do win Texas, but then Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Iowa. I mean, these are states President Obama won, right, by pretty overwhelming majorities. And so it's kind of a flipping of the electoral map. What do you think that'll do to the national parties? Well, what impact?
Oh, that's a good question. What
Yeah.
is it going to do to the national parties? Well, it's going to force them to play in terrain that they've never played in or haven't played in a very long time. One of the things that always has struck me is sort of the legacy of Howard Dean's 50-state strategy when he was the DNC chairman. That worked in 2006, 2008. Democrats picked up House seats in places like Kansas, where they had no business competing, or didn't think they had any business competing. Then suddenly they win some seats there. If Democrats show up, if Republicans show up in places where they've never been before, we'll see a pretty substantial realignment. One state I want to focus on is a state like Minnesota, where in 2018 we saw Democrats pick up 2 congressional seats right outside the Twin Cities. Angie Craig and Dean Phillips won those suburban districts. But at the same time, Republicans picked up 2 congressional seats, one in the southern sort of rural farmland area, and the other north in the Iron Range, where typical union voters turned on them, voted for President Trump's candidate.
Yeah.
That in microcosm is what's happening across the country. Democrats are picking up suburban seats, Republicans are picking up more rural seats, and that divide is just getting bigger and bigger.
The Trump team told us they were looking at New Mexico and Oregon. Is that just BS?
Yes. I remember when George W. Bush made a big play for Oregon in 2004, and when he made a big play for my home state of Washington in 2000. Neither of those really panned out. Remember when Dick Cheney went to Hawaii?
Yeah,
in
I
the
do
closing
remember that.
days of,
Yes.
No,
I think it was 2004.
Yeah.
And then he went to New Jersey just before one of the other 2000. I'm probably
That was more of a head. That was a head fake. Yeah, that was
ridiculous.
I mean, New Mexico now has 3 Democratic members of Congress, a Democratic governor, and a Democratic legislature. It's not going to change.
Gonna happen.
I mean, it has been. When did Pete Domenici last win his Senate race? 2004, I think.
That's right.
It's been a very long time since Republicans have been competitive at a statewide level in New Mexico. Aside from the last governor, who was a totally different type of Republican candidate than we're going to see on the ballot in 2008.
Wow. Really fascinating stuff.
It's
Reid.
really
Thank you so
interesting
much.
to think
You got
about.
it.
Thank you, Reid.
You got it.
We'll have more Rising for you right after this.